Thank you, Madhavan. Our first session, ladies and gentlemen, will address the question, what fuels the passions of 1 million entrepreneurs? Can entrepreneurs create growth and restore agency amongst India's youth? Can entrepreneurship encourage India's youth to be a part of the solution and be the change and drive the passion economy? We have Meghna Narayan and Ravi Venkatesan talking about what is required to fuel the passions of 1 million such youth. Both our speakers have very rich and varied career trajectories, and I could go on about their achievements, but in keeping with our time frame, I will try to make their introductions as short as possible. Ravi Venkatesan is UNICEF's Special Representative for Young People and Innovation, and also the founder of the Global Alliance for Mass Entrepreneurship, GAME, a multi-stakeholder coalition which aims to create 10 million entrepreneurs in India by 2030. As former chairman of Microsoft India and Bank of Baroda, Ravi has passionately advocated for entrepreneurship and being the change and inspiration for everyone. Ravi is the founder of Social Venture Partners India, a pan-India network of philanthropists. He has authored an acclaimed book, Conquering the Chaos, Win in India, Win Everywhere, published by Harvard Business Review. He's also been voted Microsoft's Alumni Hero 2020 and as one of India's best management thinkers by Thinkers 50 and LinkedIn's Global Influencers. Meghna Narayan is passionate about children's nutrition and health. She's committed to making a positive change to childhood nutrition statistics. And what led her to starting Slurrp Farm was the need to feed her daughter healthy and tasty food. Slurrp Farm is today a loved and trusted kids' food brand in the country. Their millet-based baby cereals, cookies, dosa, pancake mixes, and snacks are already trusted by over 5 lakh mums and growing. Before starting Slurrp Farm, Meghna led the public health practice at McKinsey & Company, and she holds an MBA from Harvard Business School, a BA in computation as a Rhodes Scholar from Oxford University, and a BE with distinction in computer engineering from Bangalore University. So here are Ravi Venkatesan and Meghna Narayan in conversation in our first session of Knowledge Factory 2021.
Hi, Ravi.
Hi, Meghna.
Excited to be here at Knowledge Factory, and we're setting the tone, I feel, for the next 2 days. So no pressure. I'm going to start you off with your first question. For everybody out there, I'm a big fan of Ravi's. His career is actually mind-boggling. It's like he's had 3 people's careers in one lifetime and is still going. In the context of that, right? Multiple careers, diverse set from banking to technology to manufacturing. You have, gone about conquering the chaos, so to speak, and won many times. You might disagree with me on the winning, but I think, to the outside world, at least it looks amazing. What do you feel are the building blocks, as you think about successful organizations? What are the patterns you've seen across these various industries, both in terms of the organization as well as in leaders, right? And as entrepreneurs, both in terms of what should you look for in yourself and in your teams as you build your organization?
Sure. That's a great question, Meghna. And if you don't mind, I think I'll focus more on the individual and less on the organization. I think that way the appeal is more direct because everybody is passionately interested in themselves. So, thank you for your compliments. I do think I've been very lucky in life and my career as well. But what I want to point out is all this so-called success happened in a completely different context, which is, look, I grew up probably like your parents' generation in a world that was very stable, predictable, and just incredibly simpler. And this world no longer exists. Last year we saw just how crazy things can get and how uncertain and volatile things are. And the world is increasingly filled both with just huge challenges, but also equally huge opportunities. When I talk to people, and today I have a great opportunity to somehow reach a few hundred or thousand, I forget how many people, young people there are. I say the single word that describes the 21st century is change. There's going to be more change in this century than in all of human history, right? And so the defining question for every one of us individually, for all of us collectively, is just this: how well can we adapt to this change? How well can we navigate change? And so, very honestly, the success recipes of the last century, including my own, may not be so relevant. The really relevant question is, what will it take to be successful? What will it take to flourish in the 21st century? And so, I'd say, look, the number one thing is actually the mindset. What is mindset? People haven't even given much thought to it, but it's basically the assumptions we have, the beliefs we have, which are, about everything, about ourselves, about each other, about how the world operates. So I'm good, I'm smart, I'm not good looking, I'm a success, I'm a failure. All these things, these sorts of things are your mindset. And I like to say, look, think of it as the application, the app that runs your life. Now, Bill Gates, who I think quite well of, he said, look, what you believe determines what you achieve. And so in the 21st century, you need to have this belief system or mindset of an explorer. Think of the explorers who went in first to the heart of Africa or the Amazon basin or wherever. And they saw life as an adventure. And that's how we have to approach things now. Because life is very unpredictable and many things will happen and not all of it's going to be good, right? So sometimes it's good and we rejoice. But hey, you could be working at GE and doing a great job and suddenly, no job. You may have a major illness. You may get a new person, a boss or some person in your life who makes you miserable. And you've got to deal with it all. 2 years ago, I watched an interview with Irfan Khan as he was, diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And he said, look, life is under no obligation to give you what you expect. And I wrote that down immediately in my diary. What a beautiful thing. Okay. And so if you're prepared for that, and if you're, things are going to be good, if you're the kind of person who likes things stable, predictable, expects the world to be fair, it's not going to be so easy. Now, as I was thinking about today, I remembered a book I read 25 years ago, Meghna. It was a very slim book called Who Moved My Cheese? I don't think even you would have read it because it's
But I've heard yeah.
Yeah, but it sold 25 million copies. So there's something powerful here. And there's a story, really silly story about some mice and people who live in a maze. And there's this good pile of delicious cheese. And life is good. But one morning they wake up and the cheese is nearly gone. Well, the mice are pretty smart. They decide, okay, time to go look for more food, and they head out. The humans are a bit duller. So they sit around saying, I wonder what happened. This is not fair. Who moved my cheese? Who stole it? Whatever. And then there's this particular one character, I think his name is Hem or Haw. And so he's particularly stuck. And even as others start getting the idea and move on to look for food, he's still saying, look, this is not fair. And he's waiting to be rescued. And it's a sad ending. And so this is really the choice that every one of us has right now, which is, are you going to sit around waiting to be rescued and for good things to happen? Or are you going to be a go-getter like Meghna Narayan, find a new opportunity and make the most of it? And there's now more and more evidence. There's literature and the psychology called the growth mindset. How do you think about success? How do we define failure? So on and so forth. So look, when I look back at my life and all the wonderful things Rini and you have said about it, it didn't turn out the way I expected. I thought I would be X by the time I was 50 or 60 or whatever. But instead, many opportunities came along and I just grabbed them. Every 7 years or so, I walked away from whatever I was doing and took on a completely new challenge and started with a student mindset and try to make a success of it. That's how Microsoft happened. That's how Bank of Baroda happened. That's how UNICEF happened. That's how Game happened. And as I said, it hasn't turned out too badly. And this is one piece of sort of advice I'd give people, the mindset. Just develop that. The second critical question, I think, is figuring out what are you going to do with your life? It's the single biggest question out there today. Everyone's thinking about it, whether they're 16 years old or 30 years old or 58 years old like I am. And it used to be really simple, right? And when I was growing up, you just worked really hard, studied, you became an engineer or a doctor. Both of us got a check for that. And if you were not so good, then you did science or accounting or something, but whatever. And then you got a job and held on to it and climbed up and did better and better. And then you retired. That's it. Now, there's just a bewildering array of choices. You can teach, you can find some job, you can deliver groceries, you can start Slurrp farms, you can become a chef, you can try to save the world. And a young person has no idea which one to pursue. And if you ask for advice, you get all sorts of contradictory advice from your parents, your friends, from all the garbage on social media where everybody has an opinion. My point is just this. Look, forget about a job. Stop thinking about employment, jobs, promotions, all these things. They are artifacts. They're obsolete, the vestiges of the 20th century. They don't exist. If you look at what's happening in India and the US and Africa, anywhere, there are more and more people chasing fewer and fewer decent jobs. And unemployment is the highest it's ever been in 40, 50 years. And there's no job security, right? You can be doing well one day and boom, next day, you're out on the street. Your company disappeared. There was a reorg. You got a new manager who doesn't like you. They outsourced your function. Even the tenure of a CEO is now down to 5 years. So forget jobs. Think about your life as a series of projects. That's far more sensible. And the faster you can find a way to become self-employed and stand on your own feet, the better. If, like you can actually start an enterprise and give opportunities to a few others, even better, but not everyone's cut out for it. And even if you've got a great job today, don't think it's going to last forever. See it as a project. That's really how I went into Microsoft. I was terrified of failing. And then I said, stop thinking of a career at Microsoft. Think of it as just a project. And who knows whether it'll last 1 year or not. In the event, it lasted 8 years. And that's how I have since seen everything I do. The last thing I'll say is, look, 2,000 years ago, Aristotle, of all people, gave perfect career advice. He says, do the best you can with what you're best at. Okay, that's it. Today, we've got fancy names for it. We call it purpose economy, passion economy, and so forth. But the simple idea is find something you like doing and you're decent at. Find a way to get paid for it. Okay, look, that's what you've done, right? You gave up a job that most people would have given their right arm for and said, no, I'm passionate about this. I'm going to try and make it work. I did the same thing at a much older age. I was 45 when I walked away from a corporate career. So find whatever you like doing. It could be cooking, it could be writing code, it could be making people laugh, teaching. And, some people will like tackling tough societal problems like Greta or Disha Ravi or whatever. And find a way to, start doing it and get paid for it. It's that simple. And now I'm going to stop because I'm giving away all the content of my book, which is coming out called What the Heck Do I Do with My Life?
Nice. I think you've said sort of, if I distill it, it's two things, right? Change is constant. So you better figure that out in your head, mindset as you call it. And second is try and be self-employed, find something you really, really like and do it every day, right? People, the newspaper is full of the news these days that India is the best, this time in India, this generation is following that advice in that there has never been a better time to build in India. Whether it is access to digital distribution, access to capital, this is genuinely, it's much easier than doing it a decade ago or even 20 years ago. From your experience, both with the social capital firm and as well as with game, is that is that an India answer? Like, is the answer the same in Ludhiana as it is in Bangalore? It doesn't feel like it is, but
No.
I just wanted, yeah. And
No.
I don't even think like Bangalore has it all the boxes checked. So what is it going to take really to really, make it a level playing field?
How much time do we have? No, look, all the people writing about this,
Yeah.
they're probably based in Bangalore, Delhi, or Mumbai, or one of these places. And in that bubble, that is certainly true. That there's these digital platforms, marketplaces, venture capital, the hordes of like-minded people trying to build things. So there's never been a better time. But for most of India, the 99% of India, including smaller towns and cities, whatever, this is not true. And this really is the heart of the work we're trying to do and change at Game, right? So to me, the most life-changing book I ever read, Meghna, was a very obscure book by a Nobel Prize-winning economist called Ned Phelps. It's called Mass Flourishing. And Ned looked at the question of why did suddenly in the 16th or 17th century, a third-rate country like England suddenly start breaking away from, and over 200 years, it became the most wealthy, the most successful country in the world, okay, most powerful country in the world. And then by the 20th century, they lost the plot and the mantle passed to America, and you had the American century. And the 21st century, it's unclear, but it could be the Chinese century, whatever. So he looks at what causes a country to really break away, take off, because that's what we have to answer for ourselves sitting in India, right? And Ned's thesis is completely different from everybody else. It's not because they suddenly got a great leader and there were nice policies that made things easier, better, etc. This is nonsense. He said what happens in these countries is, without realizing it and there are very many reasons for it, values begin to shift in a society, okay? And so he calls these sort of modern values. So if you look at Britain, right, suddenly there is a shift in values as a result of the Enlightenment. And this one of the values is, look, the primacy of the individual. Until that time, what was important was the church, this country, the state, the whatever, your feudal landlord. Now they said the individual is important. He or she has rights, and most particularly, they have the right to pursue whatever they want to pursue, okay, and make choices. This was a huge shift. Another big societal shift was the belief that I have agency. I am in control of my life much more than God, the planets, the state, and so on and so forth. That's a completely different, mind-blowing way of thinking. Society's attitude towards risk-taking. Suddenly it's okay to take risk and fail, no shame. As a result of these values, some people started becoming adventurous. And what happens is some of them start exploring the world, and eventually people like Clive find their way to India, America, and build the British Empire. Others start building little business, causing Napoleon to call Britain the country of shopkeepers. But they had the last laugh. And the most important thing is some young people started tinkering, inventing, etc. And unlike you, they weren't the ones who went to Oxford and Cambridge and Eton. They were the semi-literate or illiterate, no great means, and they invented every important thing of the 18th century, which is the spinning wheel, the steam engine, the locomotive. And that inspired more and more people, and then it just took off. And the same thing happened in America. The same thing happened in China over the last 30 years. So the question is, what's going on in India? And in India, you have one Bangalore, one Gurgaon, maybe one Mumbai, where something similar is happening, right? So Bangalore is the startup capital for the country. And I was reading the other day, 14 of the 21 unicorns are Bangalore based, okay? Yeah. And so you have to ask yourself, why is Ludhiana not like that? What is special about Bangalore? In Bangalore, you have a number of pieces coming together. The most important thing is you've got amazingly successful entrepreneurs who made it big. You have the Narayan Murthis of the whatever 1990s and 2010s. Then you have the Bhavish Agarwal and Binny, Sachin Bansal, Baiju, whatever. And their spectacular success inspires Meghna and others to say, look, forget a job. I'm also going to go build my own thing. And now you're not alone. You're not lonely trying to build it. You're part of a thundering herd, and you draw courage from each other, ideas from each other, etc. Every cafe becomes an incubator, the VCs, etc. And the most important thing, you're based in Bangalore, right?
No, I'm based out of Gurgaon. But
you're based in Gurgaon. Yeah, it's a similar thing out there. And the other thing is that the value system, these cities, Gurgaon, Bangalore, they don't care who you are. They don't ask you what is your caste, your gotra, religion, are you male, female. They care what you're doing, okay? The attitude towards risk is completely different. It's fine if you try something and it doesn't work. You just dust yourself off and keep going. So, and the attitude towards money, it's good to create wealth. It's great to be rich. In many other places, there's guilt because the way they make money is very different. So, you come to a Ludhiana, which you asked about. Even though it is entrepreneurial to some extent, there are lots of MSMEs making bicycle and auto parts and textile. It doesn't have all these elements. You don't have the spectacularly successful entrepreneurs who are inspiring young people, right? So what does a Punjabi young person today care about most? Leaving the state, okay? They want to go to US, Canada, UK, Italy, Ukraine, anywhere, Bangalore. The ones who stay behind, their number one aspiration is a government job, army, police, these kind. They're not really aspiring to be entrepreneurs. If you can't change that with success models, it's not going to happen. The values, try being a woman and starting a business out there. It's not easy, which is why only 1 out of our 25 in the cohort in Ludhiana is a woman entrepreneur. So what we're trying to do is bring together all the elements to make this work in Ludhiana. And if it works, over the next 10, 20 years, we're saying, could we see similar interventions in 700 cities from wherever, Kanpur to Kolhapur to Kanyakumari? And then India will flourish, right? I think anything else is not going to work. I think the PLI scheme, all these top-down policies are important, but unless there is this mass movement of entrepreneurship,
absolutely,
I really don't see India taking off, and we have that opportunity. Sorry, I'm giving such large answers, but
not at all. I think I'm sorry, Meghna's on. You should let her speak.
No, you should finish your comment, Meghna. But I have lots of questions, so just finish your comment and then I'll ask questions from the audience.
I guess there was just one more, right? We clearly have a lot of students listening in today, and as I look out, I'm wondering what are the top areas that that you think people should look at as opportunities, right, to go after.
Sure. Great question. Look, India is the most fertile place in the world for would-be entrepreneurs because we have so many problems. Okay, we're just up to our eyebrows in problems waiting to be solved. But you have to be an optimist. Okay, so the joke about an optimist is someone who sees an opportunity in every problem. A pessimist sees a problem in every opportunity. So if you're positive, you can see these. If you take solid waste, I do a lot of my work in garbage. All our cities are drowning in garbage. The landfills are overflowing, and we're producing more and more garbage at a faster and faster rate. If I were 25 years old, I would.
What was that? Okay.
So I was talking about where are the opportunities, and I said, you look at garbage, you can build thousands of businesses in recycling plastic, e-waste. We still have that interference.
No idea where. Oh, I can hear you clearly. I can't hear anything else.
We'll keep going. Every time I order from Zomato or Swiggy's, I cringe with the amount of plastics out there. So how many sustainable packaging businesses are there to be built, right? You talk about construction materials that are using recycled things. second-hand shops. Every house is middle-class home is bursting with, old furniture, appliances, clothes. How can you get so how many businesses can you create? This whole green economy, green business, it has been estimated as a $50 trillion opportunity. What is 50 trillion? How big is 50 trillion? So yeah, it's 20 times India's GDP, right? Yeah. But also 10 times the size of the internet economy. The entire internet economy today is 5 trillion. And so this is a tsunami, which is 10 times as big as the internet. So if you say, how many unicorns, billionaires, businesses are going to come out of this, it's just mind-boggling. This is just one trend. There are about 10 other trends. Take food. As we become more affluent, we care about what we eat. We care about organic, local, vegan, meatless. And that's what you're doing, right? Your business is piling on that trend and saying, how do I position myself to make this into a big tailwind? I could go on and on and on. Look, I just want to say this. 5 years ago, sorry?
So food and garbage, broadly.
Food, garbage, green energy, blah-de-blah. But my point is this. 5 years ago, I was at an event in Bangalore and Ratan Tata was standing nearby. I was listening and some young person approached me. Mr. Tata, do you have any regrets? I had worked for Ratan, so I know the man. He doesn't spend much time on regrets. And he said, yeah, I do actually. I wish I'd been born much later. And I said, yeah, I have the same regret. Look, you grow up in socialist India in a closed economy. There's no internet. There's no venture capital. There's no mobile phone. For all the world's many problems today, Meghna and Meena, there's never been more opportunity. And there's never been a better time to be young.
Excellent. So are you ready to take at least a couple of audience questions?
I was going to ask Meghna some questions, but it's up to you.
Sure. We actually are short of time. I do have a question for Meghna as well, but I do want to take a couple of questions from the audience, mainly because thanks to this virtual field, the audience doesn't have an opportunity to sort of see you in person. So the first question, which I think is very, very exciting, from Ashwin De Silva, who's a BBA student, says, and either one of you could answer it. What would you consider to be the most important habit that propelled you to be where you are today? What should I take home today and put into action, like right now?
Meghna.
So, I think he says that sounds like really lofty, but I think I don't give up. I just don't, right? I do not know how to spell quit. So, and neither is my co-founder actually. There's two of us, right? So we found a problem that we are super passionate about. We want to change the way the nutrition statistics of this country look. And we are going to do everything we possibly can to change that. It's going to take us time, but we're ready for it. And we love what we do, right? So I think, what you said, find something that you're really passionate about. Then it's not a job. Then you're just doing because you like it. So find something you really want to do and just don't quit after that.
And this question seems almost tailor-made for Ravi. This is from another Ashwin. So this says, they say your network is your net worth. Are there any pointers and guidelines that help you build such formidable contacts and networks?
Yeah, I actually think he's on to something really important. I heard someone talk about 6 networks that basically shape your life. Okay, and they range from the family you were born, which, and that network, your network in high school, which shapes your values and how you define success, your city where you live, the person you choose to spend your life with, your spouse and his or her networks. These 5 or 6 networks determine what your value systems are and determines what opportunities present themselves. Okay, and so if you want to change your life, one of the most effective ways is to start changing your network. Just start hanging out with different people, move to another city over here. Now, the idea is not to have the biggest names and all that. I think the most real relationship. And the only advice I give people is this is an intangible asset, and you need to be as intentional about it as you are about tangible assets like your money and wealth and so on and so forth. Okay. And the other thing is you have to be authentic, because when you show up as just collecting a network, you just people run and recoil because they see you as a consummate self-promoter and fake. So just be yourself, have a genuine interest in people, pay forward if somebody does something nice to you, do something nice to others, and just the network grows out of that.
Thanks. That's a great one. Meghna, again, maybe this one you could answer. This is from Esther Abraham, a very young student who's a BSc student, microbiology. So she says, I'm a microbiology student and who wishes to start a pharmaceutical company after my studies. Being a science student, I would like to know how one can start a company, even though I have doubts about initial investment. What risks should I be prepared for?
Sure. So I think, I'm not a food technologist and I started a food company. So one is, I don't think that's a prerequisite. I think knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know is what is possibly more critical. So ensuring that, you can always bring people to the table to help you with things that you don't know how to do. And I think, that's something I also enjoy the most, right? Is bringing that team of people, whether it is the food technologist or the, pediatrician or the nutritionist, to be able to come up with a great product. In terms of investment, I think there's no shortcut to that. There's a, you have to figure out what does it take, right, to build a business plan for a for a pharmaceutical company. Go out and talk to as many people as you can, who run pharmaceutical companies, and build that jigsaw together, right? So you can figure out what it takes to sort of build a pharma company.
Excellent. Ravi and Meghna, do you want to give one last passing comment each on what our fantastic audience today wants to take away from today's chat?
I was actually hoping to ask Meghna and the audience a question, which is,
sure.
How would you go about in creating this entrepreneurial movement, which we so clearly need and are capable of, right? How would you inspire 1 million people like yourselves? And so even if we run out of time, maybe you can, write to me and she'll gather it up, or write to Meghna or me on LinkedIn. I'm incredibly curious about how our audience thinks. And Meghna, I'll ask you that.
So, I think we've got to start to celebrate failure, right? We only celebrate the unicorns and the soonicorns and all of that, right? People don't like to talk about the ones that didn't quite make it. And, I feel like we need to start doing some of that, right? Those sort of founders go away and maybe start something else or do something else. As a culture, we don't do that. So I think one is we have to celebrate failure. I think even in a success story, you have many failures along the way, right? And we're not by any means a success story, but I can tell you that the first 6 products we launched, all 6 are dead. Right? Because we realized that those I wanted to eat those, nobody else did. So, you have to sort of constantly think of, innovating. So anyway, really celebrating failure. The second is people have to really see this as an option, right? And not, in some ways, I feel like I took the safe path, right? It also took me 10 years to figure out what I wanted to do and what I was really passionate about. But I think we're not encouraged to think too hard. In India, as when you go to school and so on, you're like, the herd is running towards engineering school. I ran with the herd. I really spent no time thinking about what do I want to build, right? So I think maybe pushing that into university a little bit more, getting people to start to think about what is it they like, what is it they're good at, and then crafting out answers, where they're tailor-made as opposed to here's the degree, stamping degree, this thing. that would be useful. And I think also, what people don't understand perhaps is that while these entrepreneurship journeys are difficult, they're also really fun. They're really, really fun. I have never laughed as much as I have in the past 5 years. I laugh in a company with people that I like because I hired them. Right? So it's great. You're really creating your life and what you want to build. And there's nothing more, quite frankly, magical than that. So I feel like people also need to tell the story of the doing as opposed to as just a gold star investment from whatever company, valuation, that's all great. But I think there are so many other pieces to this that are not talked about enough.
Excellent. So Meghna, consider yourself recruited onto our advisory group, helping us think about this. And
fantastic. Ravi, last comment.
Look, I think the most important thing about life, and I think, is a bias towards action. Okay, even if you don't know what to do, start doing something, and then you feel your way towards what you're destined for, and so forth. Okay, if you sit around like that mouse or that human being I was telling about the story, him, waiting for clarity to emerge or somebody to come and throw you a lifeline, it's not going to be too good. So whatever it is, just get on with it. And, kinetic energy is better than potential energy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rini. So Ravi and Meghna, we hope you've enjoyed being part of the first session of KF 2021. And really, Meghna, both of you did set the tone right. So over to Rini. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ravi and Meghna, and of course, Meena, for those lovely questions. This was really an invigorating session and a good start to our first virtual festival. And I hope that our viewers have benefited from that riveting exchange. Thank you for that fabulous start to our Learntertainment KF 2021.